What does it feel like to be the right man at the wrong time?
His serve was a rocket, his attitude electrifying, his ambition limitless. He was destined to carry the torch left by Sampras. But there was a problem. Roddick's path to glory crashed into the greatest obstacle of all, a once-in-a-lifetime generation. Every battle, every final became a collision with fate. And at the center of it all, one name, Roger Federer. This is the story of a warrior who pushed legends to their limits, a man who, even when destiny tried to shut him out, left a mark that will never fade.
This is the story of Andy Roddick.
Some players are born gifted, others grind their way to the top. Andy Roddick, he had both, talent, fire, and an unshakable will to win.
And what would you like to achieve in tennis?
Achieve? Just to be the best player I can work to be.
He was born in Omaha, Nebraska, but his story was written in Texas and Florida. From an early age, his life revolved around competition, first against his older brother John, and then against the world. Roddick didn't just want to play, he wanted to win.
Like to win Wimbledon or US Open?
I'm not thinking that far ahead yet. I would love to win either of those, but...
His fiery personality and unshakable confidence made him different from the rest.
And Andy comes up to us and said, "Here, you have to sign this." I said, "What am I signing?" He said, "My Reebok contract." I said, "Excuse me?" Because kids at 10 years old do not get clothing. And I said, "Andy, what is this? What are you doing?" And he says, "I went up to them and I told them that I'm Andy Roddick and I'm going to be a great player and this is your chance." And they fell for the line and he got his Reebok sponsorship. And he was 10 years old, probably one of the youngest kids in the United States with a clothing contract.
From the age of 12, he was seen as a future star. By 18, the world already knew his name. In 2000, he became the number one. One junior in the world, he seemed destined for greatness. But he didn't write his story alone. During those years of growth, one name was always by his side: Mardy Fish. They rose through the ranks together, shared dreams, and built unforgettable memories both on and off the court. The world of professional tennis was no fairy tale. The kid who had dominated the juniors was suddenly losing. The ATP Tour didn't wait for anyone, and Roddick was about to learn that the hard way. His Grand Slam debut at the 2000 US Open, he crashed out in the first round. Expectations were high, but reality hit even harder.
Doubts began to creep in. The media wondered, was he America's next great champion? Or just another overhyped prospect destined to fade away? Something had to change.
On April 10th, 2001, inside the main stadium of the Miami Masters, an 18-year-old kid, cap turned backward, full of energy, was about to face a legend, Pete Sampras. The crowd expected a masterclass from the 14-time Grand Slam champion, but they had no idea what was coming. With a devastating serve and a forehand that could tear through defenses, Roddick didn't just compete, he won. The straight sets victory was a message to the world. A new American star had arrived. That win changed everything. For the first time, the tennis world took him seriously. Roddick was no longer just a promising talent. He was a threat. But American tennis was still at its peak. Sampras and Agassi ruled the sport. The fans wanted a new superstar, and Roddick was ready to step into that role. By the end of 2002, he had broken into the world's top 10.
The rise had begun. His biggest challenge, however, was still ahead.
Andy Roddick started 2003 by showing the world his mental toughness. In the quarterfinals of the Australian Open, he played one of the greatest battles in tennis history. 5 hours of war, an endless fifth set. 21-19 in the fifth. The longest set in Grand Slam history in the Open era. 2 hours and 23 minutes just in that final set. The tennis world had just witnessed one of the greatest displays of endurance ever seen. Roddick made it to the semi-finals of the Australian Open, his best Grand Slam performance yet. He was the favorite, but fatigue took its toll. Rainer Schüttler, playing an unexpectedly solid match, picked him apart and advanced to the final.
A missed opportunity, but it was only the beginning.
Roddick wasted no time in bouncing back. During the grass season, he captured his first title at Queen's, proving that his game wasn't just about power on hard courts. Wimbledon was the ultimate test. He stormed into the semi-finals, where a 21-year-old Swiss named Roger Federer was waiting. Tennis was about to witness the birth of one of the most iconic rivalries of the modern era. It was their first major Grand Slam clash. Federer played with surgical precision, mixing up his game and dismantling Roddick point by point. There was no answer. This was a sign of things to come. Federer won the match and just days later lifted his first Wimbledon title.
But Roddick's incredible season was far from over.
The North American hardcourt swing, his home turf, was next. In Montreal, he faced Federer again, but this time it was different. In an intense battle that went down to a final set tiebreak, Roddick got his revenge. He advanced to the final and destroyed David Nalbandian in straight sets to claim his first Masters 1000 title. A week later in Cincinnati, he powered through to the final without dropping a set. His opponent? His close friend, Mardy Fish. It was a brutal three-set battle. Roddick had to fight back from a set down, winning the second in a tiebreak and then sealing victory with another clutch tiebreak in the decider. 2 Masters 1000 titles in 2 weeks. The American crowd started dreaming of a US Open final between Agassi and Roddick, a generational showdown. But Juan Carlos Ferrero had other plans. He knocked out Agassi in the semis, leaving all the pressure on Roddick's shoulders. Roddick entered the US Open playing the best tennis of his life. He had lost only 1 set all tournament. In the semifinals, destiny brought him face-to-face with Nalbandian once again. The Argentine wanted revenge for Montreal. From the start, Nalbandian dictated the pace. Using his variety, spins, and changes of rhythm, he pushed Roddick to the limit. With a 2-set lead and match point in the third, Nalbandian was 1 shot away from ending Roddick's dream.
At the most critical moment of his career, Roddick turned to his greatest weapon, and it didn't disappoint.
He unleashed a 138-mile-per-hour serve so powerful that Nalbandian couldn't return it, leveling the score at 6-6 and keeping his hopes alive. On the next point, Roddick fired an ace, 7-6. Nalbandian responded, bringing it to 7-7, but then came the turning point. He missed a forehand by mere millimeters, handing Roddick a set point. With the pressure at its peak, Roddick delivered a strong second serve, charged the net, and sealed the point with confidence.
From the brink of elimination, he had flipped the script. From 0 to 2 down, he was now back in the fight.
Everything changed. Roddick mounted an insane comeback, pushing the match to a deciding 5th set and surviving one of the toughest battles of his career. And just like that, at 21 years old, Andy Roddick was in the US Open final.
How in the world were you able to pull that out? 2 sets down, match point down.
I don't know. Very carefully, I guess.
I suppose the crowd helped just a bit.
You guys were awesome. You're awesome. Too much.
His opponent, the world number 1, Juan Carlos Ferrero.
Yeah, he is. He played great against Andre today. I'm just going to have to get a good night's sleep, eat a lot of food, and come out and try to do it tomorrow.
Congratulations. Great gut.
This was the moment he had been waiting for his entire life.
He took the first set convincingly. In the second, Ferrero forced a tiebreak, but once again, Roddick thrived under pressure and took it. In the third, with the New York crowd fully behind him, he sealed his destiny.
Andy Roddick, US Open champion.
Oh my, US Open champion, how does that feel?
Oh, I just got a oh my from Dick Enberg. How about that?
But that wasn't all. With his absolute dominance of the summer season, he became just the 2nd player in history to win the Summer Slam, a feat that at the time only Patrick Rafter had achieved. Years later, only Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic would join that exclusive club.
A dream season ended with one final reward. Andy Roddick finished the year as the number 1 player in the world. It looked like American tennis had found its new leader. But what no one knew was that in 2004, men's tennis was changing forever.
The sport was entering a new era. the rise of the Big Three. Roger Federer had become an unstoppable force, and Andy Roddick was witnessing firsthand how the game was reaching an unprecedented level. Soon, Rafael Nadal would emerge as a dominant rival, and years later, Novak Djokovic would rise to complete the trio that would redefine men's tennis. With each passing season, Roddick's dream of reclaiming the #1 ranking seemed more distant. Despite the growing competition, Roddick still managed to achieve some major milestones in 2004. He conquered the Miami Masters, coming back from a set down to defeat Guillermo Coria in the final. And if his raw power wasn't already feared enough, he broke his own serve speed record, setting a new mark that showcased his unmatched weapon.
I'd be lying to you if I said I could tell the difference between if I hit one 145 or 152. They all just feel hard. I think the one I broke was 155. I had a little bit of a lead, so I said, why don't we let one fly here?
His serve wasn't just fast, it was destructive. Sometimes, even the ball couldn't survive.
Grass season brought another shot at glory. Roddick reached his first Wimbledon final, facing Roger Federer. The year before, they had met in the semi-finals, where Federer had dominated. But this time, things were different. Roddick came out swinging, securing a break in the third game and taking the first set, showing no fear. The second set started like a nightmare for Roddick. Federer came out firing, breaking twice to surge ahead 4-0. It felt like the set was slipping away, but Roddick refused to fold. Against all odds, he clawed his way back, breaking Federer twice to level the score at 4-4. The momentum had shifted. The crowd could feel it. At 5-6, facing set point, Roddick attacked with precision, pushing Federer to the edge. But just when it seemed he had turned the tide, Roger pulled off a moment of brilliance, a flawless passing shot to steal the set. Federer clenched his fist. The scoreboard read 1-1. The third set was a war of attrition. Roddick broke early, surging to a 4-2 lead and holding firm against Federer's relentless pressure.
Just when it seemed like he was in control, the skies opened up. A 40-minute rain delay forced both players off the court.
When they returned, everything had changed. Federer came out sharper, breaking back immediately to level at 4-4. From there, neither player could find another opening, exchanging holds in a tense battle filled with near misses and break points saved. The set was destined for a tiebreak. And there, Federer found another gear. With pinpoint precision and unwavering composure, he outplayed Roddick in the clutch moments, securing the breaker and taking a 2-1 lead. The fourth set was another tight battle. Roddick had a golden opportunity with breakpoints to go up 4-2, but by mere millimeters, they slipped away. Instead of extending his lead, the score was back to 3-3. Federer didn't miss his chance. In the next game, he broke serve and took control at 4-3. This time, there was no turning back. At 5-4, serving for the championship, Federer closed it out. As Federer lifted the trophy, Roddick stood at the net, absorbing the moment. He had pushed the greatest player in the world to the edge.
He played very, very aggressive. I got lucky today for sure, because I was down, maybe served a few good games. He would be up 2-1, so he also deserves, this title.
But the title remained just out of reach.
To know how difficult it was dealing with those rain delays, because the last one did seem to affect you a bit.
Yeah, jeepers creeper. It's tough, but in all fairness, it's tough for both players. I didn't go through anything different than Roger did, and he came out and just took advantage of it. So, it's just more credit to him.
A rivalry was born.
But this is a rivalry we can look forward to for many years, isn't it?
Well, I hope so. I'm gonna have to start winning some of them to call it a rivalry. But
He walked off the court that day without the trophy, but with something that no scoreboard could measure: respect.
Roddick left London disappointed, but not defeated.
He arrived at the US Open as the defending champion. In the second round, he delivered a statement performance, completely dismantling a 17-year-old Rafael Nadal with a brutal 6-0, 6-3, 6-4 victory. But his title defense wouldn't last long. In the quarterfinals, he ran into Joachim Johansson. The match turned into a grueling 5-set war, and in the end, it was the Swede who pulled off the upset. The season still had one final challenge, the Davis Cup final. The United States had not won the prestigious team competition since 1995, and now they were facing Spain on Spanish soil. Carlos Moyà gave Spain an early lead, defeating Mardy Fish in the first match. In the second match, Spain took a huge gamble, benching Juan Carlos Ferrero and sending out a teenage Rafael Nadal against Roddick. At just 17 years old, Nadal was facing the number 2 player in the world. Roddick took the first set in a tough tiebreak, but then the world saw something special. Nadal fought back. He found his rhythm, pushed Roddick to the limit, and won the next 3 sets, securing an unbelievable victory that put Spain up 2-0 in the series. The American doubles team kept their country alive, cutting the deficit to 2-1. But in the fourth match, Roddick had the chance to keep the final alive. Across the net was Carlos Moyà, a former world number 1, playing in front of a wild Spanish crowd. Roddick fought, but Moyà was too good that day. Straight sets. Spain had won the Davis Cup. It was a gut-wrenching end to the season. Roddick finished the year as world number 2, but the losses in crucial moments left a bitter taste.
Federer was unstoppable. Nadal was rising fast. And the game itself? It was evolving in ways that didn't favor Andy Roddick. His fight for another Grand Slam was only getting harder.
Andy Roddick kicked off 2005 in strong form, reaching the semi-finals of the Australian Open. In the first set, facing a breakpoint, Roddick unleashed a stunning display of power, 7 aces in a row. It was a reminder of why his serve was one of the most feared weapons in tennis. But standing in his way was local hero Leighton Hewitt, fueled by the roaring home crowd. It was a battle of intensity and grit, but Hewitt had the upper hand, defeating Roddick in 4 sets. In May, Roddick made headlines, not just for his game, but for an act of pure sportsmanship. During a tightly contested match against Fernando Verdasco in the Rome Masters, Roddick had match point. The chair umpire played a double fault against Verdasco, seemingly ending the match. But Roddick did something extraordinary. He overruled the call, admitting that the serve had clipped the line. The point was replayed. Verdasco seized the momentum, saving 2 more match points and eventually winning the match 6-7, 7-6, 6-4. With a fire for redemption, Roddick arrived at Wimbledon ready to reclaim what Federer had taken from him the year before. In the quarterfinals, he endured a grueling 5-set war against Sebastian Grosjean. Then, in the semifinals, he faced Sweden's Joachim Johansson, dropping the first set but recovering in 2 dramatic tiebreaks to reach his 2nd straight final at the All England Club.
And once again, waiting for him was Roger Federer, on a 35-match winning streak on grass.
I'm ecstatic that I'm playing against Roger, honestly. He's the champ.
The first set was a statement. Federer dominated 6-2. The second was a battle, but when it mattered most, the Swiss maestro stepped up, clinching the tiebreak 7-2. The third set was more of the same. Roddick fought, but Federer had all the answers, sealing a 6-4 win to claim his 3rd consecutive Wimbledon title.
For Roddick, it was déjà vu. The same court, the same opponent, the same painful outcome.
Probably not really in the mood for a chat, but you must wonder what you have to do against this guy.
Yeah, more in the mood for a beer right now.
Andy, does it also mean that you have to take so many chances out there against him to try something different?
Yeah, I mean, you run out of options because he's become such a complete player. So, maybe I'll just punch him or something, I don't know.
Despite the heartbreak, Roddick had built enough consistency throughout the year to finish ranked number 3 in the world, trailing only Federer and the rising force of Rafael Nadal.
2006 was a season of struggles. The results weren't coming, and for the first time in years, doubts started creeping in. Midway through the year, Roddick made a bold decision. He parted ways with his coach and turned to someone who had known him his entire life, his older brother, John Roddick. The change brought an immediate spark. During the summer hard-court swing, he rediscovered his rhythm. In Cincinnati, he stormed through the draw, defeating Juan Carlos Ferrero 6-3, 6-4 in the final to claim another Masters 1000 title. his first in 2 years. Then came the US Open. In the third round, Roddick found himself locked in an exhausting 5-set thriller against Verdasco. He barely survived, but from there, he hit his stride, bulldozing his way to the final.
Congratulations. Describe what it means to be in another U.S. Open final.
Well, it means the world to me, and thanks for backing me up.
I always talk about your serve, but it seemed like the backing down the line was your shot today. Is that your new favorite shot?
Yeah, one of them. A guy I know taught me how to hit it, so so it's working better and better.
And who was waiting for him once again? Roger Federer.
Between now and tomorrow's final to get ready for Roger Federer.
Well, I'm going to go enjoy this for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to eat a lot tonight, try to get some sleep, and come out and try to win US Open tomorrow.
This time, though, Roddick came prepared. Federer stormed out of the gates, racing to a 5-0 lead before taking the opening set 6-2. But with the New York crowd roaring behind him, Roddick struck back, breaking Federer in the very first game of the second set and holding his serve to level the match at 1 set apiece, 6-4. The stadium was electric.
Was this finally the moment?
The third set would be the turning point. Both players had break opportunities in a tense battle, but with 6-5 on Federer's return game, the Swiss maestro found the crucial break to edge Roddick 7-5. The momentum had shifted, and the psychological blow was devastating. In the fourth, Federer showed exactly why he was the best in the world. Roddick, shaken, barely avoided a bagel, saving a match point at 5-love, but Federer closed it out 6-1, sealing his third straight US Open title in dominant fashion.
After some disappointing time, we're all excited to see you back on the top of the mountain.
Thank you. Or close to the top anyways.
Because tonight was really difficult against Andy. I'm really happy to see him back, at the very, very top.
For Roddick, it was another crushing loss in a Grand Slam final. His third against Federer. The rivalry had turned into a nightmare. He finished the season ranked number 6th in the world. A solid year, but one that left him wondering, could he ever truly overcome Federer?
Andy Roddick kicked off 2007 in strong form, storming into the Australian Open semi-finals. But waiting for him, again, was Roger Federer.
You can dance around that as much as possible, but at a certain point you just kind of have to realize that the road to a Grand Slam title is probably going to run through Roger.
What followed was one of the most brutal beatdowns of Roddick's career. Right from the start, Federer set the tone by breaking Roddick in the very first game, a sign of what was to come. Roddick managed to recover, leveling the set at 4-4, but at that crucial moment, he dropped serve after a net exchange, allowing Federer to close out the set.
Up to 4-4, you're in the match, and then you got broken.
I get broken, and then I got broken 3 more times, and then I got broken 2 more times in the third set, and then it was over about 26 minutes later. Is that about what you saw too? Or?
Then came the onslaught. Federer reeled off 9 straight games, handing Roddick a crushing 6-0 second set and breaking him again in the opening game of the third. The nightmare continued as Federer kept up the pressure, sealing one of the most dominant performances of their rivalry. In the end, Federer dismantled him 6-4, 6-0, 6-2, a Grand Slam bagel.
My performance here is better than on court. No If there were rankings for press conferences, I wouldn't have to worry about dropping out of the top 5, I hope.
But behind the jokes, frustration was growing.
It was frustrating. It was miserable. It sucked. It was terrible. Besides that, it was fun.
Federer wasn't just beating him anymore. He was dominating him in a way that felt demoralizing.
The US Open presented a shot at redemption. In the quarterfinals, Roddick had his chance to rewrite history. Another showdown against Federer. The crowd was electric. Roddick was older, wiser, and determined to finally turn the tide. For 2 sets, he was right there. Both went to tiebreaks. Both were razor close. In the first set, they were deadlocked at 4-4 in the breaker when Federer produced 2 stunning passing shots to earn set point. On his second chance, he closed it out with an ace. Then came the dagger. At breakpoint, Roddick unleashed a 140-mile-per-hour serve. An absolute rocket. Federer somehow returned it like it was nothing, breaking serve and breaking Roddick's spirit.
Federer closed out the match in straight sets.
Andy was serving out of a tree. I tried to hang in there. I didn't have a break point till the third set. It really shows how close it was, and I could have lost obviously the first 2, and he had the break point before me, so it was a tough match, I thought.
The head-to-head in Grand Slam meetings now stood at 6-0.
Despite his struggles on the ATP Tour, Roddick had one final chance to lift a major trophy in 2007, the Davis Cup. 3 years after heartbreak in Seville, the US was back in the final, this time at home in Portland, facing Russia. Roddick stepped up for the opening match and delivered. With a dominant straight sets win, he set the tone for Team USA. James Blake followed with another victory, and the Bryan brothers sealed the deal in doubles. 12 years after their last Davis Cup triumph, the US was back on top.
It wasn't a Grand Slam, but for Roddick, it meant everything. He had led his country to a title.
In 2008, Roddick was still fighting, but the tides were shifting. Yet amidst the struggle, there was one moment of personal triumph. At the Miami Masters, he faced Federer again.
11 consecutive losses, 11 heartbreaks.
But this time, something changed. Roddick came out swinging, serving aggressively, attacking Federer's backhand with relentless power. In a tight 3-set battle, he finally broke the streak. He finally beat Federer. It wasn't a title, but for Roddick, it was a win that meant more than most people would ever understand. The build-up to the match was intense. It was the US Open quarterfinals, and Roddick and Djokovic had history. But this time, things felt more personal. In his press conference before the match, Roddick took a jab at Djokovic's frequent injury timeouts.
No, I mean, if it's there, it's there. There's just a lot. He's either quick to call the trainer, or he's the most courageous guy of all time. I think it's up for you guys to decide.
That line didn't go unnoticed. When Djokovic stepped on the court, it was clear. He was playing with extra fire. He came out swinging, taking the first 2 sets with authority. But in the third, the crowd got involved. The New York fans rallied behind Roddick, trying to push him back into the match. Djokovic wavered, and suddenly it felt like momentum was shifting. Then came the 4th set tiebreak. At 5-5, with everything on the line, Djokovic dug deep, defending like a cornered animal. He absorbed Roddick's attack and somehow turned the rally in his favor, setting up match point. Moments later, he sealed the win, but the battle wasn't over. In his post-match interview, Djokovic made sure to address what had fueled him.
Well, obviously, Andy was saying that I have 16 injuries on the last match, so obviously I don't, right? Didn't look like it. Yeah, well, yeah. Like it or not, I mean, it's like that. So, this crowd loves you. You can turn them against you real fast, Well, I know they're already against me because they think I'm faking everything, so. No.
While he remained competitive, the Grand Slam results weren't there. He was still a top player, but the next generation was looming. Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic weren't just rising stars anymore. They were taking over.
It's an important match for me. I played against, the best player here in Queens.
He ended the year still inside the top 10, but reality was setting in. The Big Three had taken full control.
Andy Roddick's time as a contender was running out, but he wasn't done just yet. He still had one last shot at history.
Andy Roddick started 2009 by proving he still had the fight. In the Australian Open quarterfinals, he got his revenge on Novak Djokovic, avenging his defeat at the US Open just months earlier. Under brutal Melbourne heat, Roddick weathered the conditions and took control after dropping the first set in a tiebreak, winning the next two. Then, early in the fourth, he broke Djokovic's serve, and that was it. Overcome by the scorching conditions, Djokovic decided to retire, unable to continue. With that, Roddick was back in a Grand Slam semi-final. But ending 7-5, another Grand Slam, another loss to Federer.
You know, a lot of energy, and he always likes to talk to the crowds, make jokes, talk to the umpire, you know, I mean, he's a funny guy, you know, I like Andy. So
The setback was crushing.
It was an okay match. I mean, he just beat me. You know, it's plain and simple.
But Roddick wasn't done. His eyes were set on Wimbledon.
My goals when I turned professional, I wanted to be number one in the world. I wanted to win the US Open. Be part of a winning Davis Cup team. And win Wimbledon.
His road to the finals was not easy.
In the quarterfinals, he faced a grueling 5-set battle against former champion Lleyton Hewitt, showing once again that his mental toughness was intact. Down 2-1 in the 5th set, he saved a breakpoint with an incredible shot, refusing to back down. Then, with a powerful backhand aimed at his opponent's body, he sealed the victory. In the semi-finals, he silenced the home crowd by defeating Britain's own Andy Murray. Roddick took the opening set, but Murray responded, leveling the match by winning the second. In the 3rd set, Roddick saved a set point to stay alive, and in the 4th, he fought off a crucial breakpoint that would have given Murray a 5-3 lead and a chance to serve for the set. 2 clutch tiebreaks ultimately sealed the victory, sending Roddick to his 3rd Wimbledon final.
And waiting for him, just as in 2004 and 2005, was the man who had shattered his Wimbledon dreams twice before, Roger Federer.
What was it like being on the other side of a net from Roger Federer, center court, in a final?
Depressing at times. You know, when he's kind of firing on all cylinders, and obviously
Roddick wasn't here to be a footnote in Federer's legacy. He was here to win.
The match started off extremely tight, with neither player conceding a single opportunity. At 5-5, serving to stay in the set, Roddick found himself in deep trouble, facing 4 breakpoints. Relying on his powerful serve, he escaped, 3 of them by mere millimeters, thanks to Hawkeye. Federer was growing frustrated. It felt like luck was on Roddick's side. With fearless aggression and a rock-solid backhand, he broke Federer in the very next game and took the first set 7-5. He was playing some of the best tennis of his career.
The momentum was his. The belief was growing.
The second set was a battle of serves. Neither player faced a single breakpoint. It all led to a decisive tiebreak. Roddick had Federer on the ropes, leading 6-2 with 4 set points. 1 point from complete control of the final.
But Federer did what he always did. He found a way.
He saved the first set point by opening up a sharp angle, then erased the next 2 with unreturned serves. The tension was suffocating. Feeling the pressure, Roddick played his next set point on a second serve. He still had control of the rally, attacked the net aggressively, but his high volley drifted long.
Federer had done the impossible. He had survived.
From 2-6 down, he had wiped out all 4 set points. Now, it was Roddick who was under siege. Another second serve gave Federer an opening, and he took it. Then, in a cruel twist, Roddick cracked. He tried to stay aggressive, but sent his backhand long. Federer didn't hesitate. He seized his chance.
Roddick was shattered. He should have been up 2 sets to love. Instead, it was 1 set all.
The third set followed the same pattern. Neither player could break the other. At 2-3, Roddick found himself in danger once again, facing a break point. This time, more composed, he saved it with a strong first serve, keeping the scoreboard level. With neither player conceding ground, the set inevitably headed to another tiebreak. This time, Federer came out firing. He raced to a 5-1 lead, dominating the tiebreak. Even though Roddick fought back to 6-3, Federer remained in control. On his third opportunity, the Swiss finally broke through, closing out the tiebreak 7-5. For the first time in the match, Federer was in the lead.
It felt inevitable, like the final was destined to follow the same script as the ones before.
Roddick refused to surrender. He had come too far, fought too hard. This battle was far from over. In the fourth set, at 2-1, he played with relentless aggression, stepping inside the court and ripping a stunning passing shot to break Federer's serve. He let out a roar, releasing all the frustration built up from the 2 lost tiebreaks. For the second time in the match, he had broken Federer's serve, something no one else had done all tournament. With that momentum, he surged forward, closing out the set 6-3 and forcing a deciding fifth set. For the first time in his career, he had dragged Federer into a fifth set in a Grand Slam final.
What happened next was one of the most legendary battles in tennis history.
In the final, I had so much clarity from being able to just go from one point to the other.
Roger Federer stepped onto the baseline to serve first in the fifth set. In a match of razor-thin margins, this meant extra pressure for Andy Roddick. Every game Federer held would force the American to do the same. And just as the set began, Federer had a golden opportunity. At 1-0, he earned a break point, a chance to strike first, but Roddick had been here before. He had already saved 5 break points throughout the match. This time, he saved another, his 6th in a row. Federer's frustration was evident, but he knew Roddick wasn't going to give in.
What followed was a test of endurance, nerve, and pure will.
Both players held serve game after game. No signs of weakness, no cracks in their armor. 6-6. In this era, before Wimbledon introduced final set tiebreaks, there was only one rule: keep playing until someone wins by 2 games. Both men understood the brutal reality. Losing serve now meant losing the final. 8-8. Roddick saw an opening. He played aggressively, stepping into the court. After a stunning backhand, he had 2 break points.
It felt like his moment, his dream, so close.
But Federer was unshaken. He saved the first with an unreturned serve. Then, with a perfectly executed serve and volley, he erased the second. The battle raged on. 10-10, 12-12, 14-14. Roddick was serving like a machine, showing unimaginable resolve. But Federer wouldn't go away. In the stands, Pete Sampras watched intently, knowing Federer was on the verge of surpassing his Grand Slam record. At 15-14,
listen, I'd fought off break points all day, and I hadn't been broken for 4.5 hours, and I'd broken him a couple of times.
Roddick had 2 chances to level at 15-15, 2 opportunities to stay alive, but Federer sensed blood and hesitation. He stepped inside the baseline, his eyes locked on the prize.
Roddick's nerves showed. Match point for Federer. The pressure was now unbearable. Roddick stepped up to serve. On a second serve, he swung. The ball clipped the frame of his racket. It sailed long.
Then all of a sudden it was over. And that's when the weight of it kind of hit me. And then it's like, gosh, man, I was so close. And, that stuck with me for a little while.
Game over. Roger Federer was the Wimbledon champion. And Andy Roddick, he had played the match of his life. He sat in his chair drained, knowing he had done everything possible.
I don't know that I could have done anything differently that day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the runner-up, Andy Roddick.
Andy, you certainly played your part. After a match like that, I just think this sport is so cruel sometimes.
No, I'm one of the lucky few that gets cheered for, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It was his 4th Grand Slam final loss to Federer, his 3rd at Wimbledon. The Grand Slam head-to-head between them now stood at 8-0 in favor of Federer.
The 2009 Wimbledon final is the most memorable match for me.
Roddick, with the sportsmanship that defined him, declared,
I want to say congratulations to Roger. He's a true champion.
Then, glancing at Sampras in the stands, he let out a wry smile.
Well, I tried. Sorry, Pete. I know I tried to hold him off.
But in his face, there was still hope.
I still hope one day that my name will be up there with theirs as winner of this tournament, and I'll be back.
From a distance, Federer tried to console Roddick, saying,
"Don't be too sad. I went through some rough ones as well. I won on this court last year, so I came back and won. So I won 5, but still, it hurts. You know, so you're going to come back and win it. I really hope so. You're an unbelievable guy, and you played unbelievable today. Unfortunately, in tennis, there has to be a winner sometimes, and today I was on the lucky side."
The truth was, Federer had also endured the most painful defeat at Wimbledon just a year earlier against Nadal. But fate never allowed Roddick to experience the other side of the story. And he knew it. Back in 2007, he had already admitted it in an interview.
You know, you can dance around that as much as possible, but at a certain point, you just kind of have to realize that the road to a Grand Slam title is probably going to run through Roger.
That road, that insurmountable wall, had been Federer. How many majors would Roddick have won if Federer had never existed?
Look, I mean, if I wouldn't have been there, maybe, look at the success he would have had, in Wimbledon especially, and maybe at the US Open now as well.
That's a question without an answer, but what he left on that court on July 5th, 2009 was more than a result.
It's a defeat that you have to live with, but he gave it his all, and he did everything right. It just didn't work out that way. That's sports.
It was one of the greatest performances in Wimbledon history, a match that cemented his legacy, not as a multiple-time Grand Slam champion, but as a warrior who never backed down. In 2010, Andy Roddick was searching for one last great moment in his career. His opportunity came at the Miami Masters 1000. In the semifinals, he faced Rafael Nadal, the world number 3 and the heavy favorite for the title. The match started rough. Nadal controlled the rallies, dictated with depth, and his defense was impenetrable. But Roddick wasn't ready to back down. He adjusted his serve, found his rhythm, and took control of the exchanges with his signature power. He turned the match around, winning 4-6, 6-3, 6-3, claiming one of his most significant victories in years. In the final, he faced Czech star Tomáš Berdych. From the very first point, Roddick took charge. Playing one of his cleanest matches in recent memory, he bulldozed his way to a dominant 7-5, 6-4 victory. He had won his 30th career title. What no one knew at the time was that it would be his last big trophy.
My last title this big was in 06. So it's the days like these, they don't happen too often, so I'm going to enjoy it. You never know how many of these finals you're going to play in, so I'm really happy to get through.
That victory not only added another Masters 1000 to his legacy, it also kept him inside the top 10 for another season.
However, as 2011 arrived, something had changed.
It wasn't just his body, it wasn't just his confidence. Tennis had evolved. The rallies were longer. Defense had become the new offense, and Roddick's aggressive style, once unstoppable, was now fading into the past. The game was different. Nadal and Djokovic had taken physical endurance to another level, turning every point into a war of attrition. Power alone was no longer enough. As the season progressed, the signs became impossible to ignore. For the first time in nearly a decade, Roddick finished the year outside the top 10. His body wasn't the same. The writing was on the wall. Since 2003, when Andy Roddick reached world number 1, only Federer, Nadal and Djokovic had held the top ranking, a dominance that lasted until 2016. The sport had entered a new era, one that Roddick had helped define but could no longer control. At the 2011 US Open, the gap was clearer than ever. Roddick faced Nadal in the quarterfinals, yet this time there was no contest. The Spaniard dismantled him 6-2, 6-1, 6-3. The inevitable question was already in the air. During that season, a reporter asked him directly about retirement.
Your ranking has dropped to a specific place on the ATP World Tour. You would retire, and
I think that you should retire.
By 2012, the struggle was undeniable. The injuries, the grind, the evolution of the game, it had all caught up to him. But Roddick still had one last fight left in him. At the Miami Masters 1000, he faced Roger Federer for the 24th and final time. This time, the story was different. Against all odds, Roddick played a flawless match and took down Federer in 3 sets, 7-6, 1-6, 6-4. It wasn't a Grand Slam final, it wasn't for a trophy, but it was a reminder.
Even when darkness reigns for years, those who fight will always find the light.
Okay, Andy, you won some great matches in your time, but that must be up there.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you beat the best ever at something, that's, I said it the other day, hey, you know, it's a big deal.
But time doesn't stop. And during the 2012 US Open on his 30th birthday, Roddick made the announcement. He was retiring from professional tennis.
Make this short and sweet. I've decided that this is going to be my last tournament. I just feel like it's time. I don't know that I'm healthy enough or committed enough to go another year. I've always wanted to, in a perfect world, finish at this event.
The shoulder that had once unleashed some of the most devastating serves in history had become his greatest weakness. He admitted that he could no longer compete at the level he demanded of himself.
Right, I knew I could still play. Can I go through Roger, Rafa, Novak, Murray, Del Potro, yada, yada, yada. And once I lost the belief that I could, tennis felt like work for the first time.
He would walk away from the game on the same stage where he had once reached the pinnacle of it all, the US Open. In his final match, he faced Juan Martín del Potro in the 4th round.
And I feel lucky that my career was ended at the US Open by Del Potro.
He fought until the very last point. He battled just as he always had, but this time it wasn't enough. He fell in 4 sets, and as the final point was played, he stood still, looking up at the sky, soaking in one last standing ovation from the crowd.
Andy, it's your moment. It's your microphone.
Oh, wow. For the first time in my career, I'm not sure what to say. Oh gosh, where do I start? I know I certainly haven't made it easy for you at times, but I really do appreciate it and love you guys with all my heart. I've loved every minute of it, and
the last American Grand Slam champion of his era. He left the game with 32 ATP titles, a US Open, a Davis Cup, and the respect of every player who ever stood across the net from him.
But I'm happy with my process. I'm happy with the way I went about my career. I'm happy that I was able to kind of stay in the top 10 for a decade. So I'm proud of those things.
Maybe, in a different era, Andy Roddick would have dominated the sport. But his legacy isn't about what could have been. It's about how he played, about the fire, the fight, and the fact that no matter what, Andy Roddick never backed down.